Hi guys, welcome to the second session on UiPath ReFramework. Today we will create a project using ReFramework which will take Excel as data source. Now if you have not watched my previous video on ReFramework where we learnt about the architecture of ReFramework and the ReFramework overview, please check out that video for a quick reference. It will help you to understand this session easily. So let's get started. So I'm going to automate a task from this RPA challenge website, this input forms task, where the website has provided an Excel. So if you download this Excel, you will get the Excel something like this. So what the task is, for each of these rows from the Excel sheet, we will pick up the rows one by one and fill the form on the screen and click on submit. So this is the task which we are going to automate using UiPath ReFramework. So let's jump into the UiPath and create a new project. And here we are in the UiPath Studio. Let's select this Robotic Enterprise Framework. Let's select this one and let's provide a name over here. ReFramework Demo with Excel. And let's click on Create. And here we are in the UiPath design section. Let's move to project and let's open this main. And this is the complete ReFramework template on which we will work. Now before working here, I will move to the File Explorer. So move to File Explorer and move to Data. And here we have this config file which contains all the configuration data. So if I open this one, this is the config file. Now I want to put this challenge.xlsx file, which will be our input data file, in the data folder present here. So what I'm going to do, I will move to my folder where I have kept this challenge file. Let's copy this one from here and I'm going to put this inside the data folder of our project. Now moving back to this config file which we have already opened. So here we provide all the configuration details. So in the settings, I'm going to provide the input file path and sheet name of this challenge file. Let's close this one and let's open this challenge file from this data folder. So here I'm going to provide input file and here we will provide the path of the file. So the path is inside this data folder. So here I'm going to write data slash and the file name is challenge.xlsx. Next we will provide the input sheet name as well. So I'm going to write input sheet and here I'm going to provide the sheet name as sheet 1 since the sheet name of this challenge file is sheet 1. Also, I'm going to provide the application URL which will be the application URL of this RPA challenge website. Let's provide it inside the config sheet. All done for the settings sheet. Let's move to constant sheet and here we have this maximum retry number. So in case a system exception occurs, if you wish to retry that transaction, you can provide a value over here. Let's say that I want to retry one time, so I provided the value here as 1 and in the description it says must be 0 if working with orchestrator queues. Now since we are not working on orchestrator queues, we can provide the maximum retry number whatever required in the project. So I have provided the retry number as 1 accordingly. So all done for the configuration sheet. Let's save this file and let's close this. Now let's move back to our project. Now first of all, in this template, in this ReFramework, we will work on this initialization which is used to read the configuration file and initialize all the applications which are used in the process. Also in this state only we will read this Excel sheet. We will add the logic to read this Excel and store it inside the data table for further use. So let's open this initialization state. Now in this initialization state, in the beginning the system exception will be nothing. That's why it has been assigned to nothing. And the config, which is a dictionary variable, this config is a dictionary variable which holds the values from the config file. This is also set to nothing. So when the condition is true, we will move to first run. So let me open this first run. Now in the first run, in the very beginning, this init all settings workflow is invoked. Let me open the workflow from here. So this workflow is invoked to read the data from the config file. Let me open that config file again. So this workflow is going to read the data from this config file and store it inside the dictionary variable. It will store the values from this config sheet as a key and value pair inside this config dictionary variable. So we don't need to modify anything in this workflow. Let's move ahead. Now there is an if activity which is used for the orchestrator queues. Now since we are not working on the orchestrator queues, we can delete this one. Next, this kill all processes workflow is invoked, which is used to kill all window processes used in the project to assure that the execution starts in a clean state. So if I open this workflow, here we will add the kill processes activity. Now in our project, we are using the applications this Excel and the Chrome where we have launched the website. So we can use the kill process for these two applications so that the execution starts in a clean state. So let's move to activities, and here I'm going to search for the kill process activity. Let's drag and drop it over here, and in the process name I'm going to provide the process name as Excel for the Excel application. And next I'm going to add the kill process again, and here I'm going to provide the process name as Chrome since we have launched the website inside the Chrome browser. So all done inside this kill all processes. Let me save this workflow and let's close these. Let's close this init all settings as well. So we are done with this kill all processes workflow. Now after this workflow, we are going to write the logic to read the data from this Excel and store it inside a data table. So for that, I'm going to add a sequence workflow. So let me add a sequence workflow, and let's provide a sequence name here. Write input data to data table. And here let's add the activities to write the data to the data table. So here I'm going to first of all add the read range activity. We are going to use this read range activity from the workbook. Let's drag and drop it over here. And here we'll have to provide the workbook path and the sheet name. Now we have already stored the workbook path and the sheet name in the config file here as input file and input sheet, which is present inside the dictionary variable config as a key value pair. So here I'm going to use this config variable. So let's write this config variable here, and inside the quotes I'm going to provide the key. Now in case of workbook path, the key will be this. So let me write it here, and we'll have to convert it into string. So put a dot and let's select toString. In a similar way for the sheet name as well, I'm going to use this config dictionary variable with the key name as input sheet. So let's copy this one from here and let's paste the key over here, put a dot and convert it into string. Next, we want to read the entire Excel, so we do not require to provide any range over here. And we are going to assign the output to a variable. The value which will be read from this Excel sheet will be stored inside a data table variable, which is already created here. This transaction data is a variable type data table. So we are going to assign the output to this transaction data variable. And since this Excel also contains this header, so we will go with this checked option, that is add headers. So all done for this read range activity. Also, we can add the log messages. So let me add the log message over here. So let's drag and drop a log message. Let's select the log level as info and let's keep the message as reading data from the input sheet. And once the data is read at the end, I'm going to provide one more log message as log level as info, and let's provide the message as data from input sheet stored in the data table. So all done under this sequence. We read the data from the input file and stored it inside our data table. So let's save this one, and I'm going to move to this first run again. Let's move back to try block. This was the sequence where we worked. In the first run, we added this sequence, write input data to data table. So all done under this first run. Let's move ahead, and next this init all applications workflow will be invoked, which is used to initialize the applications used in the project. So let's open this workflow, and here we are going to initialize our applications. So I'm going to add the activity as open browser. Let's drag and drop it over here. And here we'll have to provide the URL which is already present inside the argument in config of argument type dictionary, which holds the value of the config variable. So let me show you. We are working on this init all applications workflow. If we click on this import arguments, here we have the argument in config which holds the variable config. So let's click on OK, move back here, and in the open browser I'm going to provide in config argument, and here let's provide the key name. So in this case the key name is going to be this application URL. So let's provide this key name application URL, and we'll have to convert it into string. So put a dot and let's select toString. So we provided the URL, and after that we'll have to click on this start button to start the challenge. So we are going to add the click activity also. So let's add this click activity and indicate element inside browser. Indicate here. So all done. We have launched our application inside the browser. Next we'll have to provide the browser type as well. So from the drop down we can choose any browser on which we wish to work. So let's select the Chrome browser. And at the end I'm also going to add one log message here. So let's drag and drop this log message activity, log level as info, and message I'm going to provide as RPA challenge application launched. Now, since this is a project with multiple workflows and the states, it is a good practice to add many log messages in the project. It will help you to keep the track of the execution flow. So we have added this log message and all done for this init all applications workflow. Let's save and let's close this one. So all done under the try block of the initialization. We worked on the try block of the initialization state. Now if any system exception occurs, it will be catched inside the catch block. And we can also add the activities inside the finally block is if required. So let's skip this as of now. We are done with the initialization block. So let's save this one and let's move to this general business process. Now, if any system exception occurs in this initialization state, the flow will move to the in process. Else, if the initialization state is successful, the flow will move to this get transaction data. So let's work on this get transaction data state, which is used to get the next transaction data to be processed. So let's open this. Now here one thing to notice is that this ReFramework is designed by default to work on queues and the queue items. So if you move to the variables, you will see the variable type as queue item. This transaction item is a queue item. But since we wish to work on the data tables and the data rows, So wherever you get the variable or argument of type Q item, you'll have to change the type to data row. So first of all, we will do the same. This is a transaction item variable. So from here, I'm going to, let's move to browse for types and let's search for system.data.data row. So this is the system.data.data row. This variable type holds the data from the data table, and our complete this data is present inside a data table. So this type, data row type, is of our interest. So let's click on OK. So here the variable type is changed. Let me move here. So the variable type, transaction item variable type, has been changed to data row. Next, this transaction number variable will be used to keep the track of rows from the data table. So since the data row in a data table starts from 0, so here I'm going to provide the transaction number as 0. So we changed two things here. We changed the variable type of this transaction item variable, and we changed the transaction number default value to 0. Now moving ahead inside this get transaction data workflow, let's minimize this one. Now in this get transaction data workflow, if this condition should stop is true, then the process will be stopped. Else, if the condition is false, then this get transaction data workflow will be invoked. So let's open this workflow. And in this workflow, first of all, we will check the argument and its type. So here you see this out transaction item argument has the type Q item. So as we discussed, we will change the type to system.data.data row, and every other argument looks good. So let's see what all we have inside this workflow. So first of all, we have this get transaction item, which is used to work with the orchestrator queues. Since we are not working on the orchestrator queues, we can remove this one. And next we will work on the if activity to get the data from the data table in the form of data rows one by one. So let's see what all we have. So here we'll have to provide the condition. So I'm going to change this condition. This condition is related to queues. So let's provide the condition here as, I'm going to provide the condition as in transaction item less than IO transaction data dot rows dot count. So here we have provided the condition that we want to fetch the data from the data table if the transaction number, which holds the current row count from the data table, is less than total row count of this transaction data table. Now once this condition is true, then we want to fetch the data. So for that I'm going to use the assign activity. So let me search for the assign activity from here. Let's drag and drop it over here. And we will fetch the data as a row. So this row will be fetched, then this row will be fetched, and so on. So to fetch a row, what we are going to do, we will write here, let me open the value, and here I'm going to write transaction data, IO transaction data, which is a data table, and in the brackets I'm going to provide the row count, which is in transaction number. So this expression is going to fetch a complete row from the data table. So this row will be fetched, then this row will be fetched, and so on. So let's click on OK. Now this value will be assigned to a argument of type data row. So we have the argument of type data row. So this out transaction item of type data row. So here I'm going to provide the out transaction item. This out transaction item holds the transaction data, which is nothing but the data from the current row of the data table. Now here it is showing an error and it says that It disallows implicit conversion from string to integer. So let me open this value which we provided here. So here we have provided this int transaction number as a string value. It should be an integer. So let me remove the double quotes. It should be an integer, and now it looks good. Next, other these three assign activities with these arguments are used for the logging purpose, so you can keep them as default. Now we will work on the else block. So we have worked on the then block. Now we'll have to work with the else block. If the condition is not satisfied, then in that case we'll have to set the out transaction item value to nothing. So for that, again we'll use the assign activity in the else block. Let's drag and drop it over here. And here I'm going to provide the out transaction item argument, and here I'm going to provide its value as nothing. So if this condition is satisfied, then this out transaction item will hold the current row data from the data table. Else, if this condition is not satisfied, in that case, this out transaction item will hold the value nothing. So all done for this get transaction data workflow. Let's close this one and let's move back here. Now if you move to this import arguments, if you see here, this out transaction item on which we just worked, here we'll have to assign a variable, and the variable will be this transaction item. And every other argument looks good. Next we have some errors, so let me see. So in this activity we have some error, and here it says cannot assign queue item to data row, but we have already converted the queue item to data row variable. So this is a refresh issue. Let me remove this. Let me save it once and let's provide nothing again. And now you see the error has been removed. In a similar way, here also we have some error. So we already worked on try. There is no error inside the try block. Let's move to the catch block. And here also the same refresh issue. So we can delete this nothing, save this one, and let's provide the nothing again. And you see the error has been removed. So now we don't have any error in this get transaction data workflow. So all done for this get transaction data workflow. Let's save this one. We added the activities to get the transaction data, which is nothing but the current row data from the data table. So let's move back to general business process. We are done with this get transaction data. Now moving ahead. Now after this get transaction data is processed, if there is no data remaining for processing, the flow will move to end process. Otherwise, the flow will move to process transaction. So if we have any data in the transaction item, the flow is going to the process transaction state. So the process transaction is used to process a single transaction, and the result of the processing is assigned as success, business exception, or system exception. So let's open this process transaction and let's work on that. Now this state begins with the business exception as nothing. There is no business exception in the beginning. Then this process workflow is invoked. So if I open this workflow, so in this workflow, the business process logic is provided. So in our case, our business logic is to fill this form and click the submit button. So we are going to write the logic of filling the form and clicking the submit button inside this workflow. Also, in this workflow, we are going to define a condition to capture the business exception in case it occurs and throw that exception. So let me show you how we can work on that. So first of all, we will move to arguments, and here we'll have to check the argument type. So as we discussed, this transaction item will be of type system.data.data row. So let's change the argument type from here. And in config argument is of type dictionary, which holds the data from the configuration file, so that is fine. So here I'm going to take a sequence first of all. So let's take a sequence here and let's provide the sequence name as fill the form. Sequence name as fill form, and in this sequence we are going to write the activities to fill this form. So first of all we are going to fill this first name. So for that I'm going to add the activity type into. So let's drag and drop it over here and we'll have to indicate on the screen. So let's indicate this text box and its value is present in transaction item with the column name as first name. So you see the column name here is first name. So I'm going to provide the column name as first name here. And I'm going to convert it into string. So put a dot and select to string. Also in the display name, let's change the display name to type into first name. So all done. Now if you notice in this application, if you click on the submit button, the field position gets changed. Now because of this, the selector might cause an issue. So if you open the selector editor from here, so here you see the validate button is in red color. That means the selector present over here is invalid. It is because the field positions are getting changed and here we have the value of ID which is dynamic in nature. Now even if you uncheck this ID and try to proceed, it will not help because this selector is not going to identify this first name text box uniquely. So what we need to do, we require some more attributes for which we are going to use the UI Explorer. So let's open this UI Explorer from here. We have already learnt about the selectors and the UI Explorer in the dynamic selectors session. So in case you have missed that video, please refer that video as well for the selector understanding. Now here I'm going to indicate this first name again from this indicate element option. Let's select this first name. And to get more attributes, I'm going to select this option of indicate anchor, which is going to indicate the reference element. And I'm going to take the reference as this field label. So let's select this indicate anchor and let's select this first label. Now we can uncheck this ID. This is dynamically changing. So let's uncheck this one and if you validate this selector, it works fine. So this selector will work in every position of the field. So let's save this one. And the selector got updated here as well. So let's click on OK and we are done with the type into first name activity. So we can collapse this one. And in a similar way, we have here 6 more fields to be filled. So what I'm going to do, I will copy this one and I will paste it 6 more times. And in a similar way, we will work on all these activities to type the values. So this one will be for typing the last name. So let me change the name to type last name and let's expand this one. And here also the value which we are providing, the column name, let's change it to last name. And let's indicate this last name on the screen. So this is the last name. And we'll open this one in UI Explorer. And to add more attributes, we are going to indicate the anchor as last name label. And all done, we are going to uncheck this ID which is changing every time, validate this selector and it is going to work. Let's save this one. In a similar way, moving ahead, let's work on the next field which is company name. So let's move here and let's expand this one and here I'm going to change the display name as company name. And in the transaction item also, I'm going to change the column name as company name. Let's indicate this company name on the screen. And here we have the company name text box, and we will open now in UI Explorer, and we will indicate the anchor, and this is the company name label which is going to be the anchor. Next we'll uncheck this ID, validate this selector, and it has been validated. Let's save this one. And all done for this company name. Let's collapse this. Next field with us is role in company, so we will work for this field. So let me change the column name to role in company, and we will change the display name here as well. Next we will indicate this role in company in this screen as well. So I'm going to indicate here, so this is the text box role in company, and we will move to UI Explorer and select indicate anchor, select this label role in company, and uncheck this ID and validate this selector. All done. So let's save this one. So all done for this role in company. Next field with us is address. So I'm going to expand this one, and here I'm going to select the column name as address, and I'm going to change the display name as well. Type into address, and we will indicate this address on the screen. This is the address text box. So from here indicate on the screen this is the address, and we'll open in UI Explorer to add more attributes using the anchor. So select this indicate anchor and select this label. Uncheck this ID, click on validate. So the selector is validated. So let's save this one. All done for the address. Next with us is the email field. So I'm going to change the column name to email, and similar for the display name. Let's indicate the email on this screen. This one is the email text box. So I'm going to indicate the email text box on the screen. Again, we'll move to UI Explorer and indicate the anchor. Let's select this email. Let's uncheck this ID and click on validate. So the selector looks fine. Let's save this one. And the final one with us is the phone number. So if I expand this one, let's change the column name to phone number. And here I'm going to change the display name as well. Let's select indicate on the screen. I'm going to indicate this phone number. So indicate on the screen this text box, and we'll move to UI Explorer. Indicate the anchor as the phone number label, and uncheck this ID and validate the selector, and let's click on save. So all done, we have provided all the activities to type the values in the form. Next at the end we'll click on the submit button. So for that we are going to add the click activity. So let's add a click activity and indicate on the screen and indicate this submit button. So that is done. In the fill form sequence, we will type the values of the fields and we will click on the submit button at the end. So let's move to process again. This is the fill form sequence where we work. Let's collapse this one. Next, we will define a condition which will check if the business rule exception occurred or not. And if a business rule exception occurs, then it must be thrown. Now to work on this condition, you must know what is the business rule exception in your project, which is generally decided by the business team. So let me show you an example of business rule exception. So we have this input sheet with us with some data. So let's say that business team says if the first name contains null or white space, then skip this transaction item. It should not be processed. So in this case, having a null or white space in the first name is a business rule exception. So now that we are familiar with this business rule exception, let's create a scenario, let's create a condition which is going to check if this business rule exception occurs, how we can throw that exception. So for that, I'm going to use the if activity. So let's drag and drop this if activity here, and here I'm going to provide the condition as string dot is null or white space, which is going to check whether the string which we provide inside the brackets is null or white space. And since we want to check the first name, so the first name is present inside the in transaction item. In transaction item, and the column name is first name, and let's convert it into string. And before this one, since we wish to check, it should not be, so I'm going to add the keyword as not. So if the first name is not null or white space, then we want to fill the form. Else we want to throw the exception. So for that, I'm going to use the throw activity. So let's drag and drop it over here, and in the exception, we are going to provide new business rule exception, and here we can define our customized message. We can say business rule exception occurred. First name field has null or white space. So this is the business rule exception we have defined. So let's click on OK. Next, at the end, we can add a log message as well. Let me add a log message here as log level as info, and let's define a message. Let's define the message as transaction item is processed and it is done. So we are done with the process workflow. That is done according to the condition. Form will be filled, else the exception will be thrown. Let's save this one and let's close this process. If I open the arguments from here, so in transaction item argument of type data row has value nothing. So here we need to provide the transaction item variable, and let's click on OK. Now after this process workflow, this catch section is going to catch the business rule exception or the system exception in case it occurs, and at the end this finally block will be executed. So let's see what all we have inside the finally block. So let's open this try block, and here we have the workflow set transaction status which is getting invoked. So let's open this workflow which is used to set the transaction status on the basis of we get success, business exception or system exception. So here we have accordingly three sequence for success, business exception or the system exception. So let's open each of them one by one. First open this success, and here there is a condition. So if you open this condition, so here it says in transaction item is not nothing, that is fine, and also here the transaction item type is provided as the queue item. So we are not working on the queue item, so we will delete this one, and we are going to provide the type as system dot data dot data row. Since the transaction item type which we are using is system.data.data row. So let's click on OK. So the condition is done, and next this activity is used to work on the orchestrators and the queues. So we are going to delete this one. This is used to set the transaction status. Now instead of using this one, what we can do, we can set the status here. So I'm going to add a column status here, which is going to hold the value as success, skipped or failed according to the transaction status. So here I'm going to add the right cell activity. So let me add the right cell activity from the workbook. Let's drag and drop it over here. And here we'll provide the workbook path, which is present inside the arguments. Now, if you open the argument, here you see the transaction item of type IQ item. We'll have to change it to data row, and all other looks good. So here in the right cell workbook path, I'm going to provide in config, and the key name in our case for the workbook is input sheet. No, not input sheet. In our case, the key is input file, which we will provide here and convert it into string. In a similar way for the sheet also, I'm going to take in config, and in this case the key name is input sheet. So I'm going to provide input sheet here, and let's convert it into string. And since we are in the success block, so here I'm going to provide the cell value as success, and it what cell you want to provide the value. So if you expand this one, so we wish to set in this column, when the first row will be processed, the transaction number variable will hold the value 0, and in that case we want to set the value in H2 field, and so on. So what cell we want to set here, so let's delete this one, and we want to set the cell in H plus IO transaction number plus 2, and we'll have to convert it into string. So put a dot and let's select toString from here, and let's click on OK. So all done under this success sequence. Next, since this is a success, the log message will be returned for the success. So we are done with this success sequence. I'm going to copy this right cell. It will be used later as well. And let's move back to set transaction status. So we worked on the success and all the error has been removed. Next we will work on the business exception. So open this one, and here also we'll have to change the condition. We will remove this Q item type, and we will provide here system dot data row, and let's click on OK. Again, this is the set transaction status which is used for the queues. So we'll remove this one, and we will use the right cell activity which got placed here. Let's cut this one from here and let's add it here. Now in case the business exception occurs, we want to skip that one, and we will set the status as skipped. So here we don't need to change anything present inside all these, and here we will change it to skipped. And also we can write the business exception as well. So put a plus, and here we have this in business exception argument. So select this one, put a dot and select this message, which will display the complete message of the business exception. Now if you wish, you can write these two values in two different columns. You can have this column as status and you can have this column as message. So you can proceed any way you wish. As of now, let's proceed with single right cell. And all done for this business exception sequence as well. Again, the log message will be written for the business exception. So let's move back to set transaction status, and now we will work for the system exception. So if you open this one, again we have the assign activity with a condition. So if you open this value, so here also we'll have to change the queue type. So let's provide system dot data row. Let's select this one and let's click on OK. Next is it's assigned to a variable which is q retry. So instead of q retry, we can create another variable and let's simply give the name as retry. And in the condition also we will remove this q retry and we will provide our variable which we just created, that is retry. So if you open the variables, here we have this q retry. So since we are not working on q, we can set the value to false here. Next, let's look into the condition what we have. So if the condition is true, that is if the retry value is true, then we will set the transaction item status. So this is not required. This is again for the queue items. So let's remove this one. We are going to set the value inside the status as failed in case system exception occurs. So here let's add the right cell activity again, and all these details will be similar, and here I want to write failure, and we can also provide the failure message which is present inside system exception argument, and put a dot and let's add the message keyword. And again, if required in your project, you can split it into two rows. First one, in the first cell you can provide the value as failure, and in the second column you can provide the message. As of now, let's proceed with a single cell. Next we have is the assign retry number from queue. Since we are not working on queue, we can remove this one. Next, moving ahead, this is the invoke retry current transaction workflow. So this retry current transaction workflow is getting invoked. So if you open this one, and this is the mechanism to retry the current transaction. So in case the system exception occurs, then the current transaction will be retried. So because of this, this logic is there. So we don't need to change anything in this retry current transaction. Let's close this one. And next the screenshot will be taken, and next this close applications workflow is invoked. So if I open this workflow, so here we can provide the activity to close the application at the end. So I'm going to use the activity as close window. So let's open this one and indicate, we will indicate this one on the screen. So indicate the window on screen, and it is done. We are done with the close all applications, and we are done with this set transaction status as well. In case exception occurs, it will be catched here, and if required we can add the finally block activities as well. So that is not required as of now. So here some error is displayed. So if I move to this retry variable which we created, it is created of string type. So instead of that, we want this boolean variable type, and now all the error has been removed. The error over here is also removed. Everything looks here good, and let's close this one. And here if you open the arguments, make sure that no queue item is present here. So the queue item is not present in the type, but in the transaction item it is assigned nothing. So instead of that, we want to assign the transaction item variable. So let's select this one, and everything looks good. So let's move back to general business process. So all done for this project. We have added all the logics required in this ReFramework project. Also in this input sheet, we have added this blank first name to check for the business rule exception. We can add some more blank first names to check the business exception. Let's save this one. I'm not going to close this Excel. UiPath project is going to close it on its own because we have added the kill process activity. But that kill process activity we have added after the work on the config file. So I'm going to close this config file, otherwise it's going to throw the error. And let's save this project and let's quickly run this project to see how it works. And my project is running now. It closed the Excel and now it is launching the RPA challenge, and now it is providing the data from the first row, and it clicked on submit. Now since the second row has the first name as blank, so it moved to the third row. It skipped the second row and now it proceeded for the fourth row. And accordingly it is providing the data from the next row. Now round 6 is in progress and round 7 is in progress now. Next we are in the 8th round. And all done. Now since we had provided the blank first name in two rows, that's why it skipped those two rows and did the execution only for 8 rounds. Otherwise, it would have performed the execution for the total 10 rounds. But our expectation was to skip the two rows since we had provided the blank first name, so that is as per the expectation. So let's check for the Excel. If I move to File Explorer and if I open the data, here we have the challenge Excel, and here you see the status column. We had provided for the success, we had provided only success, that's why we have this much of success. And for the business rule exception, we had provided the cell value as skipped and the business rule exception message, which we get like this. Now, since the business rule exception occurred, that's why the transaction item from this row got skipped from processing. But this is not the case with the system exception. In case the system exception occurs, then the value must be retried. Why retry? Because we have provided the value as 1 in the retry. Let me show you in the config file again. So here in the constant we have provided the maximum retry number to 1. So in case the system exception occurs, in that case that transaction must be retried. So let me show you how it will work. Let me close this config file and I will delete this data as of now. Let's save this one and I will run the project one more time to show you how the system exception works. Let's save this one and let's run this one. So my project is running. It closed the file and it launched the RPA challenge website. Now let's say that if I close the application, now in this case the system exception occurred because the UiPath won't be able to find the selector to fill the form. So in this case the retry process should be triggered and the first transaction item should be processed again instead of skipping that item. Also at this time you can check the logs in the output. These all are the logs which we had written. So you see the challenge got launched and here you see the same record is getting processed again since the system exception occurred and it retried for one time and it got retried and it is successful. And now it proceeded for the next iteration. It is in round 4 and filling the form, and it moves to round 5 and filling the form again. And round 6 is in progress and we provided two blank first names, so this in this case also the two transaction items will not be processed. And our project is over. We'll move to the data again and let's open the challenge. And now if you see, this is the status The status is similar to the previous one. In the first row, the system exception occurred, but when it got retried, we got the success. That's why the status here is reflected as success. But if the system exception would have occurred for the two times, then the status would be present here as the failure. So that's all for this session, guys. In this way you can work on the reframework projects. So try to do hands-on on this one and let me know in case you face any issues. And hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, give it a like and share with your friends and hit the bell button to get the updates on the latest videos. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel as well, and I will see you soon in the next one. Bye bye.